So hello for everyone in the room. I'm still Lars from the lobby, and I'm guide you through the panel discussion on the cloud services. So we already get the first question. I'll place it on here for the live answer. What is the replacement of the Crxd?
That's probably a question I can answer. So right now we don't have a real replacement for Crxd. I mean, there are the reason is obvious, because in the cloud we have immutable instances, and so using Crxd to change any things there wouldn't work because it's immutable anyway. So we want all the code and code changes to go through the pipeline. Of course, for local development, Crxd still works, and we will have to see for the future if and how we provide a better alternative than what we have today.
Okay, and we got another question. Are there multiple flavors of the AEM cloud service in the future, consisting with different features, or how do we select the right flavor?
Yeah, I can start with that, and maybe others can chime in. So I think, yes, there will be different flavors, but I think as an end user, you probably have to worry less about that than maybe in the past. If you have a cloud service account today, then you can already see if you provision a new environment. To my knowledge, you can select between sites and assets today. So from a provisioning point of view and what you're going to get, there will be some differences in what you select depending on, well, A, what you purchased, obviously, and B, what kind of projects you want to run. If you want to do an assets deployment, or if you want to build a new experience with AEM sites. At the end of the day, and yeah, I'm not sure if you have the ability here to follow up if that's really answering the question. What should really matter for you is what you want to do, what is the intent that you want to solve with the service, and we will, to the best of our knowledge, and depending on the packaging and the logical structure we have internally, provision the right things for you so that you have everything at hand to actually achieve your goal.
Right, and I think it's fair to add that we probably do the same for the SDK for local development, right? We have a base SDK, and if you're using additional services, then you will have additions to that SDK that you can use locally for development.
Okay. Anyone else want to jump in? No. Okay. Next question. There is one. Is there a package manager, or how do I can download the content?
I can probably answer this. Yes, there is a package manager, and yes, you can download the content and you can upload content. There are some limitations on the package manager running in AEM Cloud Service, particularly around very, very large packages. If an installation takes an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, because the instances are ephemeral, there is a risk that they may restart during that upload. So it's better to create packages that are smaller. We're working on a better package manager that acts faster, does less I/O, is much more restartable and fits within a cloud-native environment. But the current package manager still works.
Thank you. And there, well, let me see. Let's just pick one of the questions. Are APM solutions, New Relic, etc., as well as long aggregated functionality in the pipeline for the AEM as the cloud service?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it is, after all, a platform. It is not just a service. Like we said in the keynote, the goal is to retain all the capabilities to build and extend. And one of the big target audiences for the cloud service is still the developer personas from partners and customers. And absolutely, we are fully aware that developers need these kind of tools to do their job. So at some point in the not so far future, we will offer these capabilities. Not quite sure yet what they will be based on yet, but very likely based on one of the major solutions out there for APM.
Okay, thank you. There's one question about user-generated content and how you deal with that without reverse replication agent.
I can probably have a go at answering this. So, as you know, the publisher instances are ephemeral, and hence any content that would be stored there could be lost. So the approach in a cloud-native environment to doing user-generated content is to have a service that the publisher instances talk to store user-generated content. Now, that service can be in a number of places, provided that you can get to it from a publisher instance. And since you can get to any HTTP service or HTTPS service from a publisher instance, it could be anywhere. You can, with a bearer token, get back to the author instance, and you can write to author JCR content, although that's not possibly the best mechanism for doing user-generated content. A better mechanism is a service designed to scale horizontally to meet whatever your site's demands are for user-generated content. And in the backlog somewhere on the roadmap, we will have the capability to do this, but there's nothing to stop a customer or a partner implementing a UGC service for their own needs or using one they've already got.
Thank you. What features are on the roadmap for the Cloud Manager?
I'm not sure if this is the right audience or session to answer this. I don't know the full roadmap from the top of my head, so apologies. We can't answer that right now. To whomever asked that question, yeah, probably best to get in touch with your official representative from Adobe, be it the account manager or the technical account manager or customer success manager, and then initiate this through the right channels to get an update here.
Okay, thank you. For feature testing, do we still need to depend on static servers, or AEM as a service or AEM as a cloud service will help in generating dynamic environments? I guess it's a like CI/CD question. If you can test code somewhere and you get an automated system up and running like a playground.
So you can definitely, obviously, you can spin up environments relatively rapidly to do testing. But if you built tests into your customizations, then those tests, and you've given them to Cloud Manager, then those tests get run automatically, and that includes testing of the UI or other aspects. So, for instance, I believe if you bring Selenium tests in, you can do UI testing as part of the build operation, and certainly we use we test the environments as they're rolled out, right out to the UI level. So it may be built in already, depending on what test is needed.
So maybe I can add to that. To me, it sounds like this is really about testing on feature branches. So in theory, you can use Adobe I/O to create an environment. So this Adobe I/O Cloud Manager integration. So you can create the environment and you can create a dev pipeline for it that deploys to that environment. And then you have the tests run, and then you just make sure that you clean everything up again, because I think it heavily depends on your account how many environments you can have in parallel.
Yep, that's true. And there is in IO Console, there is a Cloud Manager integration that allows you to get that integration working in IO runtime.
Thank you. Further on user-generated content, is there a plan to have AEM communities on AEM as a cloud service, or should community customers migrating to the cloud plan to develop their own solution?
Well, I think again, this is more the engineering representation of Adobe than the product or business side. So I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I know for a fact that user-generated content is a major goal of ours to enable and close that gap compared to what AEM offers today in the non-cloud version. I mean, at the end of the day, there is no experience in the world, no successful experience that doesn't allow some form of interaction. If you think about forms, for example, correspondence management, but also any kind of form or other website that allows rating or comments. To the specifics of AEM communities and how that will evolve in general and in the context of AEM as a cloud service, I'm not sure I can comment on that at this point.
Thank you. And also, I just need to find the question there was, how about GDPR and AEM as a cloud service? I think I've seen the question already in our dry run, like where the server's positioned and how you can deal with that in terms of, I think, Azure Cloud.
Yes, I can start with this one. Not being an absolute expert here, but I think it's not very different from, say, managed services, for example. The questions of user consent and data residence are pretty much the same. So some of it depends on the regions that we officially support and the respective rules that happen around that, but also the respective interactions that you build into your experiences. So I'm not sure I see a lot of differences here. If the question is more, do we have a general one-size-fits-all GDPR sign-off at this point? I don't think we do. I'm not sure if that's something we can generally get to, considering the nature of AEM as a cloud service being a platform. So the general platform certainly provides all the capabilities to achieve that, and there's nothing to my knowledge that would prevent it at all. But yeah, in considering that there is additional code being written and executed on top of the platform, additional data potentially being captured in the context of a project, then yeah, that is something obviously that is not 100% in our control. So you always have to look at the whole solution and experience. Anyone else who might want to add something?
I get a head shaking from all of the rest of the people. Okay, thank you. Since few years, we're using with such a success Gradle for building and deploying AEM applications. So I think because of the lacking of official support in the Cloud Manager, it stops us using it. And I think it's the question, how are the future plans for that?
Carsten, you raised your eyebrows. Is that you made that fall rightly on you? I'm not letting you get away.
Yeah, right. But I mean, again, it's kind of a roadmap-related question, right? So far, I think we don't have anything on the roadmap for that, but I'm not the expert for the Cloud Manager roadmap either. I guess, I mean, in general, all that Cloud Manager does is it builds the project, and today it installs Maven by default, and that allows you to build the project using Maven. And obviously, the tooling for Gradle is not there. So yeah,
the Maven poems in the Git repository that is given Cloud Manager uses. So presumably in the future, ignoring commitments or anything like that, it would theoretically be possible to have a Gradle build file in there. I mean, there's nothing that we've done that blocks that, other than it hasn't been implemented.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to say that. Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. When are we going to have AEM forms available? It's another roadmap question. I'm not sure whether we can deal with that, but let's pick it. Whether we have AEM forms available in Adobe as a cloud, AEM as a cloud service.
Yeah, I think let's say as soon as possible.
Okay.
I can say that it's certainly very actively being worked on, but I can't tell you a date at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Can I still install service users and ACLs with my package, and are they write limited in any way?
Carsten, you're raising your eyebrows again.
Damn, I should turn off my video. So for service users, the recommendation is to not do that via content packages, but use repo init, which is part of your project stored in Git. The same applies for all ACLs for the immutable stuff. So for /libs and /apps, /apps mainly, but because /libs belongs to the project. And obviously for ACLs in the mutable part in the content, yes, that can be part of the package.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, there's a great question, not in the Q&A pod, but in the general chat pod, which I think we should address. It's the first one by Daniel.
Yeah, based on your experience, is there something that can't be done on the cloud? Any major problems you experience with the specific customization? You cannot push that out here as a message.
Yeah. So who wants to take that one? I certainly have my answer, but Ian, Carsten, you maybe want to go first, or Georg, from an outside perspective, non-Adobe view.
Yeah, that would be more truthful, maybe.
Yeah.
Wait, so in general, like cloud, I would say anything can be in the cloud, done in the cloud as well. For the AEM cloud, well, it depends what has been made possible, I would say. So for a basic feature set, yes, like forms is coming, and obviously everything has to be provided so it works. For the Gradle, but actually I think I could think of a way to make it happen. So you just use Maven to bootstrap your Gradle build. I'm pretty sure you can make it happen. But that's then obviously the question if you want to do that. But in general, I mean, cloud native is there. Like not only Adobe is pushing it. I don't think anything is there that could not possibly be done there. But for AEM, obviously, there is a gap. And like all the previous questions have identified some. And for the things that are worthwhile, I think those gaps will be closed. And for the things that maybe are not worthwhile, they will have to be solved by something else. Maybe by some services in AWS or something. Let's see. I'm curious on where it's going to go.
There are some things you can do, or rather can't do in the cloud, which you probably shouldn't do in the cloud anyway. So you must remember that all the instances are running as a cluster or as a farm. You must remember that the instances are ephemeral. They could disappear at any moment. So, the classic example of things you could do before the cloud, but you can't do afterwards. You can't write to a local disk and expect it to last for 15 years because the pods and the cluster get restarted. You can't bash into you can't bash in anyway, but let's say you managed to get into the container, you couldn't install all sorts of native packages because they would disappear, because it's against the ethos of creating a reproducible configuration managed environment that can be scaled up and scaled down. So there's some other things as well that you probably were able to do on a single instance, like create an atomic counter with some synchronization around it. Because you're running in a cluster, that atomic counter won't actually work. If you did it on one instance, then it would count on every instance and you wouldn't get that sequence. You'd have to do some form of distributed counter. So there are some changes like that, which are just really purely part of being cloud native.
So that list of technical means is long, but like the list of business needs that the solution potentially can solve. That anything you could solve. But yes, there's lots of limitations in terms of how you can solve the problem technically. Like the people that pay for it, they won't care about it. They won't care if you save a file on disk or if you put that information somewhere where it should be in the cloud. So in that terms, yes. So obviously, cloud native patterns, they are really important, and from technical perspective, but from a business side, I think it has a lot of benefits.
Yeah, and there is. Sorry, Alex, go.
Yeah, I think, Georg, I agree that it's pretty much also what I had in mind to answer this question. I think there are limiting factors. One of them is typically some business constraints, right? Nobody has an endless supply of money. The other side, I would say, is what limits us typically is our own imagination. So if it comes to solving real business problems, I haven't seen one yet, and I can't think of one that wouldn't be solvable in the cloud. What I see, however, a lot in my discussions with people that work with AEM, and also in the discussions that I'm having around the AEM cloud service, the discussions often go like this: hey, we have been doing this for the last 5 to 10 years in this specific form. Can we do that on AEM cloud as well? And like we said in the keynote, our goal was absolutely to be backwards compatible as much as possible. And if you think about the assets, upload and processing, for example, like Carsten illustrated, it's still working the way you know it. But there is a much better way now to do that in the cloud with the signed URLs and the offsite processing. So you would be doing things in a slightly different way, but you get massive benefits from it. And this is something that applies to many, many areas of this new service. And it's really what we want to unlock here. Where we need help, I think, to help the entire industry with this and the entire AEM ecosystem is exactly the people that we have here in the conference, our implementers, our partners, everyone writing experiences, building experiences every day to engage, give us feedback on where you what are the most important things that we should address to help you make you successful, but also give us the positive feedback. Right? We like to hear that as well. We have seen very great successes so far already, and it also helps us to really understand if the thinking we had in the past around certain things, if that was right. Has it gotten us all the way where we wanted to be? Even if it just has gotten us 80%, that's still a big achievement in many of these cases. But just understanding these 20% maybe that we didn't get out of it, that we originally wanted, that is also good for us to consider then for the future.
Thank you for that answer. There is probably a slightly easier question now. Are packages installed, install hooks still supported? Any limitations?
It's similar to the previous questions about ACLs and service users. So obviously, you can. It's actually not. So the simple answer is yes, they are still supported.
Okay, thank
and
you.
I don't know any limitation. I mean, obviously, you have to think about the mutable versus immutable part there, but apart from that, no.
Thank you. The logging limitations in the cloud service are a big drawback, especially if you think about the reduced transparency. What is, again, the roadmap for providing more robust logging? Is there anything upcoming already?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe whoever answered that question could add another comment about what limitations those are.
I guess it's about access to the logs, I would say. That's maybe for Ian.
Well, we have a, one of the aims of when we went to the cloud service was to get the same environment and make it better, make it more usable. And so although we have a system that's running and provides access to logs, our long-term aim is to make the developer experience much more friendly and improve it constantly. And the release cycles that we have in the cloud give us much more opportunity to do that. As you know, we moved from a yearly release into releasing almost real time, but not quite. And so therefore we're able to make improvements to how the logging is exposed, how other things are exposed, and you should see those come through automatically over the next 12 months. But there is definitely a focus on making the development experience fantastic.
Thank you. And how and when do you remove deprecated APIs?
Okay, yeah, I think we had that question earlier today, but I can probably answer it again. So the idea is, first of all, we deprecate API with the normal Java annotations for deprecating things, and that makes them show up as warnings when you run your code through the Cloud Manager pipeline in the quality gates when the rules are run. So that, first of all, gives awareness of things that are deprecated. And then we monitor basically usage of deprecated API. We do that in managed services for some customers, and we do that for all customers in cloud service. And with that data, we basically know when that API is not used anymore. And we plan to have a grace period of, let's say, 3 months before we then potentially remove that API forever, if no one is using that API anymore.
Okay, thank you. And as a lot of AEM projects using the ACS Commons project and the AC tool, so when do you want to migrate them to the Adobe as a cloud service, or are they already compatible with the cloud service?
Okay, so that's two different things. So I can say something to the AC tool, and I think ACS Commons in general is compatible, but not all modules. I mean, something like this rewriter tool is not compatible. But anyway, for the AC tool, I can say, yes, it works today. From the vision, as Dominic said, like at some point when building the images, the container should not be started up again. So that will happen at some point, not sure how soon. Then at that point, the AC tool would not be compatible at the moment anymore. But like one idea is basically for the immutable part to generate repo init from it. So obviously you can write plain repo init, which is the official way, but you can also from these AC tool YAML files, which are a bit higher abstraction level, you can generate repo init, which then like during the build process, and then it's just there in the official supported way. But that's like, yeah, the important bit is today it works. And with like what's planned on the Adobe side, that we will make sure that it keeps working.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
on the CS common side, we have customers running on the platform already that are using it. But like you said, Georg, probably not all sub-modules fully validated yet and proven out in practice.
Thank you. The limitations right now are both custom loggers outside of errorlog, as well as logs behind truncated after a certain length. I think this is a Splunk limitation.
Yeah, that's a bug which we are fixing as soon as we can. There's work going on, the length one, that is. So you should be seeing full length stack traces. This is when stack traces go over, I think it's 10K in length. So that's a bug, and it is fixed. It will be fixed. Custom logs outside errorlog. At the moment, it's better to put everything in errorlog and then deal with it as you pull it out the other end. That allows us to unify the shipping of the logs a bit better.
Thank you. We'll take another 2 questions and then we'll have to move on, sadly said. But there's one, is there any chance to create and share AEM Docker images ready for local development instead of using SDK to simplify the setup?
I guess that's another question for me. Maybe not. Even, yeah, but I still have my eyebrows. So, what we definitely have on the roadmap is improving the developer experience and making all the, let's say, tedious tasks that you have to do today much easier than they are today. As you know, with AEM as a cloud service, for example, we release once a week or maybe even every day, so 5 times a week, which then would result that developers have to update their local SDK in that frequency as well, which is today a lot of manual work, or some steps you have to do manually. And we will definitely improve that over time. Whether that will be whatever technology we will be using for that. But the technology we will be using is basically an implementation detail. So that might be a Docker image, but still it will be an implementation detail, which basically means the answer to this question is more or less no. But we will make a great experience with a good SDK in the future.
Okay, thank you. And the last question for now. What options do I have to integrate additional applications on the infrastructure level? For example, can I reverse proxy a certain request path to a different application, or do I have to consider additional infrastructure layers to handle this?
So I can answer this. You can reverse proxy from the dispatcher to anything you like, as long as it's on HTTPS or we do allow HTTP, but we much prefer that you egress out of the cluster on HTTPS just in case you put any PII data into the request. So yes, you can. There are some more flexibility coming up in terms of the configuration, including larger packages that can be deployed. There's currently a limitation on the size of the HTTPD configuration package. So you can reverse proxy out of the cluster.
Thank you. So just looking at the time, we're already slightly overdue. And I thank you all for joining in here. I think the rest of the question can be either answered if you go into the Meet the Expert sessions later in the adaptTo, or if we actually follow up, take that questions. I'm just taking a side look here to Stefan nodding at me. So we take that questions and we'll try to follow them up afterwards in the next few days, month, so that we can actually give you a feedback on that questions from Adobe. Thank you, at least to you, Carsten, Ian, Alexander, and Georg, for answering on the questions from the people here, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the day.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.